Hey YouTube, it's Dimitri, and today I want to talk a little bit about stress relief for quants. So I am super high strung as an individual. When people tell me, Dimitri, just relax, like find something relaxing to do, my head doesn't know what to do. I just go into like overdrive even more when people say you need to relax. I've tried meditation, which we're not going to talk about in this video. Had some good results, had some bad results. Tried yoga, again, good and bad things about that as well. But for me, it's hard to unwind. Like I just don't unwind. And then on top of this, as many of you know, you've been following the channel over the last year here in 2020. So I have my daily job. So I'm associate director. I manage people on projects. We do a lot of projects. There's politics at work, and it all kind of ties into a lot of the nonsensical things. And that's fairly stressful, but that's kind of my usual stress level. Not really too much of an issue. And then on top of that, now I'm building an entire YouTube studio / garage, which again, if I was building a small little shed, it would be no big deal. But this thing is massive and it has, everything has to meet code. So building codes for electrical code. Anyways, there's a lot of stuff that goes into it. So now I'm like physically stressed and mentally stressed. I'm trying to hit deadlines for the shop. And then I have the YouTube channel and I've got the podcast, which I'm trying to put together in the beginning of the year. And now I'm trying to plan and put one together for the fall here. And then on top of that, I have family. I have a daughter. On top of that, which takes up a bunch of my time, and family events and all that, of course. And so for me, I'm kind of always at like this really high stressed level. And so it's hard for me to actually cut back on projects. So when I say like YouTube, for example, there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes that many of you just don't see. So it's not just like I make a video every week. A lot of times I'm having to plan and put materials together, and then I'm like, okay, I really want to do online courses. And so I'm kind of working on that, and then I get sidetracked and I have a ton of nonsensical things I got to do for work and family and all this other stuff. And so it just kind of derails some of these projects. And then I want to do, an honorable fancy quant mention, which is coming. Don't worry, it is coming. I have materials out and all that. But I get twisted up in this. And so for Christmas of last year, my wife actually bought me a session in a deprivation chamber. So for those of you that don't know what this is, I'll put some videos on or photos on here and you can kind of see as I talk about this as well. So this was mentioned. I won't say who, but another quant in the industry was basically prescribed this by a doctor that you are way overstressed, you're having health issues and concerns. And so this individual was prescribed basically you need to do a deprivation chamber, and we're going to see how that works on your stress levels. And then, of course, if you watch Big Bang Theory here, the TV show, there's one where Amy and Sheldon go into a float tank. And, of course, Sheldon has this, moment where he's like flying through Mandelbrot series, and that's awesome, fun, and exciting. And then, of course, Amy stresses out and is like freaking out inside of this tank and has anxiety with it. And so I got this as a gift from my wife. I think it was like $65 to do a float session, which is an hour. And so I'm like researching this and thinking like, is this going to be crazy? Like, what is this going to be like? Is it just going to be generic? Like, I don't really know. I'm a little nervous. I'm reading online. So now I'm thinking about, am I going to be claustrophobic? Because you're in like a tank. So for those of you that don't know what a deprivation chamber is, you float in salt water. So I think the Epsom salt that they added into mine was like 1,200 pounds of salt into water. It's only like, I don't know, maybe 8 inches of water is somewhere around there. It's like enough so you can float and not touch the bottom. And there's so much salt in the water that you actually are buoyant and you just float. But you're inside of like this casing, and they can be like the ones on Big Bang Theory were like small. I'll show you here pictures in a second of mine, which was quite large. But again, they put you in this tank, and now I'm worried about being claustrophobic. I'm worried about, is it really going to work? And then you start reading online, you start seeing people have hallucinations inside of these tanks. And so now I'm starting to worry quite a bit. But I'm like, but I really am stressed out at this point. I got it in December. I think it was like August when I actually used this, July or August here. So pandemic-y kind of time as well. But they're doing, less staff and everything at the spa. And so it should be okay. And they do cleaning and all that. So I agree to do it, and I go, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm hoping to have like a really enjoyable, stress-free time. If I do hallucinate, I'm hoping that it's like, I don't know, something enjoyable and not like a crazy freak out like Amy off of the Big Bang Theory. It'd be more like Sheldon's. So I go, and of course, let me just give you the rundown on what they do and give you in kind of the process here. So you go in, you take a shower. As you can see here, it's all in one room, at least the one that I went to. You can shower in the one room. You're told to shower. You need to wash off all the oils off of your body. No makeup, basically no hair product, anything like that. You need to wash everything out. They have a special soap for pre-washing to hop in. And then they provide you earplugs as well if you would like them, as it reduces even more sound. So again, they can only soundproof so much, but it's all in one room here. And then they also tell you there's this little spray bottle on the side of the tank if you need it, and a rag. This is to spray out any salt water that gets in your eyes, which we'll talk about here in a second. And then when you're done with this float tank, they turn all the lights on, for example, in the tank itself. They're like little low blue glowing lights, nothing crazy, nothing scary. And then that kind of indicates, and the motor goes on in the tank, and the water kind of starts to run as it has to go through this whole filtration process to clean the water for the next person that's going to use the float tank. So there's this whole process here. And you go and you get ready. So I go in, take a shower, get ready and all that, hop into this tank. I'm like, I don't know if I want to use the earplugs. They asked, do you want the light on or off for the float? So if you're more comfortable, you can have the light on. The lights in the room that I was in were motion activated, so they eventually just shut off because you're in the room. But you can have the blue lights in the tank on if you would like. So I told them, no, don't do the lights on. I want like the full experience here. Ladies, like if you get nervous or something's kind of like uneasy, you can leave the door open on the float tank, right? Because it's your own private room. And so I open up the door, hop in, and I'm floating there, and I'm thinking, okay, I probably should, I don't know, close the door here, right? I really want to try to get the experience. If I don't like it, I can always just open the door and have a little more light. So I lay there and I float for a while. It's not too bad, to be honest with you. Like, you're just laying there floating in water. And as you're floating, I realized through my session, different positions, so different recommended positions. You can have your arms, down flat next to your sides. You can have them up above your head and float. You can do them across. I mean, you can do all kinds of things. I did them by my side. And then I believe halfway through, I did above and did this for a while. And I was in a fair amount of pain from doing framing work on this construction project I'm working on this shop build. And I believe it's the one where your arms are above. Your head will float further down in the water, and so the water will come near your eyes. Well, the water is supposed to be body temperature as well. I'm sweating slightly because I think it's actually a little bit too warm, which is fine. So I'm sweating a little bit, so I take my hand out of the water, which actually I think was floating down beside me at the time, and I wipe, the sweat off my brow. And of course, some of the water from my hand dribbles into my eye, and now your eye is burning like it is on fire because it is 1,200 pounds of salt. Like, basically, it's like pouring salt into your eye. So I'm like, wow, okay, this little spray bottle is going to be amazing. I spray it out. I wipe it. I try to lay there. I'm kind of frustrated now. I can't get the salt out. So I thought, screw it. I'm going to just fully shower real quick, get all the water off, clean up real quick, and then hop back in. So I did this. I hop back into this, in the tank, everything, shower off and everything. Use that dry towel and wipe my eyes. I will note too, there is something called a halo, which they provided at the one I was at. It's the little like foam disc, and you can put it behind your head. And then when you're floating, it will keep your head slightly higher. So naturally your body floats. Your head floats lower because your head's fairly heavy with your brain in it. Anyways, so you can use a halo. I didn't use it. I didn't use the earplugs either, as I mentioned. But I'm floating there and I'm just thinking like, I'm expecting something big and great here. I'm expecting something crazy, right? So as I'm laying there, I'm thinking, okay, this is good in a sense that there's nothing bad about this. I'm literally just floating in water. I laid there for a while, frustrated at the beginning, hoping for something exciting and amazing to happen. My arms sometimes would bump into the sides of the tank because it's only like, I don't know, say 4 feet, 5 feet across. So you're kind of like floating, and sometimes you kind of drift to one side and you hit the edge. Kind of stressed out, laying there thinking this is kind of a dumb experience, right? This is not what I was expecting. Right? I wanted something relaxing, something a little bit crazy. I don't know. I eventually do the hands above the head though, and I lay there for some time, and my back starts really releasing. So I'm like, okay, this is at least beneficial on like muscle-wise. I'm really just kind of like relaxing out. It's even more relaxing than laying on a bed, for example, because you're kind of just all floating. I don't know. I laid there. I tried to think about, things that were not work related, not stress related. And of course, going through my head is like, well, I've got this project going on and I've got this YouTube thing going on. And I'm like, all right, hold on. Don't think about it. Somebody online said they tried to think about their earliest memories. I already know my earliest memory. I've already thought about it. Thought about it for a while. Couldn't think any further back. And so I just laid there for a while. And then towards the end, I'm kind of getting a little anxious. And I'm like, well, the light's got to be going on soon. I don't know. So I just kind of lay there trying not to think about anything, right? The whole goal of this is to empty my mind out and not to think about anything. And as I'm actually laying there and thinking, okay, I'm going to shoot a YouTube video on this experience and I don't know what to say. Maybe I should shoot a reaction video on my phone and be like, this is dumb. This wasn't that exciting. I don't know. It wasn't what I was expecting. And so when I'm done with this, I finish up the float, lights come on and everything. I hop out, I shower off. They have awesome shampoo. It's coconut smell if you're curious, at least in the spa I went to. Shampoo, conditioner, body wash, the whole 9 yards. Get all showered up, dried off, redressed. Lady comes and knocks on the door. I didn't realize it, but they lock the door and they leave. And when I thought like, oh, they lock it from the outside, which is kind of weird. No. They just push the lock button on the inside and then close the door. So you have your own privacy. No one's going to walk in on you or anything. So I'm like, okay. So of course, the lady's like, buzz me when you're ready. So there's a little button, I buzz her. She comes out. She says, okay, you ready? I'm like, I'm ready. I'm waiting. The door doesn't open. So I'm like, okay. So she's like waiting awkwardly too, thinking like maybe I'm still getting ready. They don't want to open the door and like you're getting dressed. It took me a second to figure it out, guys, but I figured it out. So unlocked the door, opened the door. It's good to go. Had some green tea before I left. And this is somewhat of a funny little anecdote side story here is they have like a room with couches and very dim lights. And there's people getting massages down the hall and they got the float tank and everything at the spa. And yet I get my cup of tea and I put my tea bag in and I'm sitting there waiting for it to steep. And I look over and there's a student, taking notes and kind of writing, I don't know, his thoughts, his journals. I'm like, that's cool. Like, right? You're reflecting here. Then the guy's pulling out his phone. He's on his phone. He's like scrolling through his phone. I'm like, we're at a spa. Like the whole purpose of being at a spa is to relax, unwind. Not sure why you're on your phone. A couple comes in. They request champagne. They're extra fancy. At least they think they were. And they come in and of course the wife sits down or the girlfriend or fiance or whatever. And she's like going through her phone. And then the guy comes in and sits down. Oh, yeah, this is where we're going to sit and everything. And he's on his phone. And I've got my phone in my pocket thinking, like, why are people checking their phone? Like, it makes no sense. You're at a spa. You're trying to relax. Like, the last thing you need is this stupid device, which is super stressful and basically ruins your life in many ways. Kind of an odd anecdotal story here, though, but kind of annoying. Somewhat of a realization, though, that, like, you need to disconnect and relax. So I finish up, drink my tea, out of there, and I'm done. So I'm driving home and I'm thinking like, well, I don't know, right? It was kind of relaxing. It was kind of enjoyable, but really you're just floating in water. Like I don't really understand this, but the real realization, the real results came like a week after I actually did the float. So I was so stressed out to this point. I've stopped YouTube. So in this point I was not YouTubing anymore. I think I stopped like the week before I did the float. So I'm not doing any videos. And I've taken about a week off, and then I have like no ideas. My brain is stressed. I'm tired of doing YouTube at this point. I'm tired of doing work at this point. I'm tired of building the shop at this point. I just want a break. And the next week, specifically, I noticed like a massive spike in like YouTube ideas. I'm like, oh man, this would be an amazing video and it wouldn't be too hard to make. And this would be an amazing video and I should do this idea and this. And I'm like, hold on, I've got to stop. Like I can write them down if I want to, but I'm trying to take a full break from YouTube. So no content creation, no thought about it, nothing. Take a clean break. And yet I'm having all these great ideas now that I hadn't had in the weeks past. And now I'm feeling a little bit more relaxed as I'm noticing like my daily averages. Like I'm feeling just a little bit better, right? Nothing shocking. I'm not having hallucinations in the tank. I'm not having like, oh, this great epiphany afterwards. There's other videos coming out of other stressful things going on during this time, which I'm not going to mention in this video to give anything away. But I'm starting to get all these great ideas here, and I'm starting to feel a little bit rejuvenated and excited, and I'm like yearning to go back to YouTube. Like I need YouTube. I need to make this content. I need to talk to my subscribers. I need to be involved here. And so my overall kind of conclusion of this is I really enjoyed the float. Okay. Don't expect it to be this mind-blowing experience. Don't expect the hallucinations. The more research I did, I realized I think a lot of these hallucinations, A, are extremely rare, and B, a lot of this tank research from back, I think like in the 60s and 70s when they were doing this, they were putting people on drugs and then doing the float. So when you're on drugs, right? You might have hallucinations on your own. And then when you're floating now and you have no sensation as much, you're still human and feel gravity, but you don't feel the gravity as much. You don't have as much sight or sound because the lights are off and you should have earplugs in, for example. I can see getting the hallucinations, but it was nothing crazy like that. But for me, like this weird floating time, and like as I went through my mind, I'm still thinking about things and stressing a little bit. My mind kind of tapered off towards the end, kind of just laying there, somewhat bored, but somewhat not stressing out as much. And I think this was enough time, this full hour of me stressing out and then getting into a relaxation mode, that it cleared my mind to the point that I could actually like function afterwards. I don't know how else to explain it to you. It's not going to make you feel like super relaxed and life is great and wonderful, but it actually like rejuvenates your brain somehow. In a way, I feel like it kind of like makes your brain go into like a bored state and makes it sleep more. And I think this is the same kind of concept as meditation. As you sit, right, you're supposed to sit quietly and kind of unwind and relax and not think about things, or go through some sort of visual scenario as you walk through some guided, meditation. And so I think it was very beneficial. Again, I am super, super dirt cheap. I don't like to spend money on hardly anything. $65 or whatever it was. I think it was a fair amount of money just to float in water, but my wife got it for me as a gift, so I utilized it. Will I do it in the future? To be honest, probably. I think it's a good value. I don't think it's something I would do like weekly or monthly unless you have a lot of stress, but it's something that will help you kind of reset yourself and get kind of going again on your trek and your journey and kind of organize your thoughts slightly better. So I would give it, a definite recommendation to try. I actually really enjoyed it. Kind of a weird concept because, again, I feel like you're just floating in water, but it actually seems to work and kind of help reset your brain. So that's my experience on it. If you guys are having stress issues, I would highly recommend just giving it a shot, right? Don't expect anything crazy, as I mentioned, no hallucinations. But I feel like you will see similar results in the fact that you'll see some flotation. Maybe I'll put an article or two below, maybe. There are scientific research on this showing that it does help reduce stress. Again, I enjoyed it, thought it was fun and exciting, something to try. I will definitely try it again in the future. Again, I'm super cheap, so it won't be very frequently, but I will definitely do it again. So anyways, those are my thoughts on the float tank, something I recommend a lot of you try if you're having issues with stress and anxiety. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you found this video helpful. And as always, until next time.